Hello dear students. So in the last lecture we were discussing about kingdom fungi and we had discussed uh, all the classes Phycomycetes, Ascomycetes, Basidiomycetes and Deuteromycetes of the kingdom fungi in uh, enough detail for you. Okay. We also saw that how the Phycomycetes are a kind of primitive fungi and Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes actually are more advanced, and Ascomycetes have a fruiting body which is called as ascocarp, and Basidiomycetes have fruiting body which is called as basidiocarp. And they Basidiomycetes are actually highly evolved fungi, and the example of Basidiomycetes may include even the large sized organisms like agaricus, which is mushroom. Okay. In Deuteromycetes, we had seen that all the organisms of Deuteromycetes actually do reproduction by mode of asexual means only, and if some organism which belongs to Deuteromycetes is found to be reproducing by sexual means, it no longer stays in the same class and it is moved out of the Deuteromycetes to either Ascomycetes or Basidiomycetes mostly. Okay. We also had seen that most of the fungi are having the saprophytic mode of nutrition, and they are decomposers and they have a big role in the nutrient cycling. So now in the chapter of biological classification, after having discussed the most primitive kingdom, which is kingdom Monera, then the kingdom of unicellular organisms, and which is sort of very diverse kingdom called as kingdom Protista. Then we went on to discuss kingdom fungi. So these three kingdoms we already have discussed. So I already had told you that Whitaker had given 5 kingdom classification in 1969, and that is the most accepted system of the classification, and it is still used by a large number of the biologists and scientists. Okay. So after the Monera, Protista and fungi, the two remaining kingdoms are kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia, which we will be discussing over here now. However, we will only touch it very briefly because we will be having a dedicated chapters on these two kingdoms separately in the coming lectures in this unit. So we will appreciate the diversity in living organisms, uh, especially in the plants and animals in a dedicated chapters. So now just to have a brief idea, so that the Whitaker's 5 kingdom classification which we had started with actually does not seem incomplete over here. Now let us see the properties of the kingdom Plantae. So as we are discussing the diversity in the living organism, diversity of the living world, you will be surprised that the plants are actually having huge number of species, and we are sort of very well familiar with the plants as compared to any other kingdom, right? Because if you say animals are mobile, they can move around and we may not see many animals. However, the plants are very diverse and they are found around us in nature, and if we go uh, to sightseeing or to some tour, we can very easily identify the plants, and most of the plants, they are not uh, harmful to us directly. That means though the animals can kill and attack us, so we have to be very careful. We cannot go around seeing all the animals like spiders or lions and tigers except the zoos. However, it is easier to grow the plants or to see the plants in the barren land. Okay. So there are lakhs of the species of the plant and even much more species of the animals, and all those things we will be discussing in the later chapters. However, what all organisms are placed in the kingdom plants, that you must be wondering over here, right? We have seen that all the prokaryotic organisms are placed in the kingdom Monera. All the unicellular organisms are placed in the kingdom Protista, independent of their mode of nutrition or other characteristics. Kingdom Fungi includes mostly saprophytic organisms, and this kingdom actually has the eukaryotic organisms which have a cell wall made up of uh, chitin and some other polysaccharides may also be there, and they are essentially heterotrophic, the fungi, right? So how do we define the organisms of the kingdom Plantae? So there are few basic criteria and characters which is present in all the kingdoms except very few exceptions which are over there. So all the organisms in the kingdom Plantae, they are eukaryotic and they possess chlorophyll for the autotrophic or photosynthetic mode of nutrition. So they all are eukaryotic, they possess chlorophyll and they are multicellular organism and they have cell wall. Okay, so this is the basic criteria to include an organism in the kingdom Plantae. It must be eukaryotic and it should contain chlorophyll substance, a chlorophyll molecule or the accessory pigments for the photosynthesis, and it is always multicellular and with the cells having cell wall. However, uh, in addition to being autotroph, there are some plants which may have heterotrophic mode of nutrition in addition to the autotrophic mode of nutrition for several purposes, and these are exceptional uh, sort of plants. Okay, so two kinds of the heterotrophs in plants have been mainly identified. One is insectivorous plants. Insectivorous plants means there are certain plants which can feed upon the insects. They can trap the insects and kill them, and they can digest them and utilize them as a food material. So the example is bladderwort and Venus flytrap. There are several other examples also. However, these two are very important: bladderwort or Utricularia, okay, and Venus flytrap. Uh, uh, so these organisms we will be seeing in more detail in the kingdom Plantae. So in some other heterotrophic plants are parasitic. So that means instead of primarily being dependent on photosynthesis for their food formation, what they do that they obtain their food from some other plants. So the best example is Cuscuta, and this is very important example. You must remember it. Cuscuta, इसको हिंदी में अमर बेल बोलते हैं, ठीक है। अमर बेल ये येलोविश कलर का होता है और बहुत सारे प्लांट्स के ऊपर ये ऊपर से पूरा छा जाता है और उस पर एक नेटवर्क मेश लाइक स्ट्रक्चर बना लेता है येलोविश, और पूरी तरह से उसको कवर कर लेता है। ओके, सो दिस कस्क्यूटा और अमर बेल is a parasitic plant, and usually all the plants are the photosynthetic. That means they do photosynthesis and they are autotrophic. Cell wall which is present in the plants is mainly made up of the cellulose. It may have certain additional materials which we will see in later chapters, like lignin or suberin or some other materials might be present. However, the cell wall, the primary cell wall will be primarily consisting of the cellulose. Okay, so cell wall is mainly made up of the cellulose in the all organisms of the kingdom Plantae, and the plants have been divided into many categories. So again, for these categories we will discuss them separately in the plant kingdom chapter, but here let us just be familiar that the lowermost plants are algae. Earlier, actually, algae had the very primitive plants and many organisms which are even unicellular and perform the photosynthesis. They were included in the algae, but now they have been separated based on the unicellular or multicellular structure. Unicellular algae, which we already have seen, uh, chrysophytes and the dinoflagellates. They are the unicellular algae, and they have been now put into the kingdom Protista. However, the multicellular algae, which are the uh, brown algae, green algae, and red algae. So these algae, which we will be again studying in much detail in the plant kingdom, they are included in the kingdom Plantae. Okay. So these algae, which are included in the kingdom Plantae, they are capable of doing photosynthesis, and they live in the mainly aquatic habitat. That means they live in the water, maybe fresh water or the marine water, and they don't have the very well differentiated tissues, though these cells may be grouped together in the form of colonies or filamentous structures. So they are loose aggregates of the cells, and they are not forming a proper tissue like structure. Okay, all those details we will be discussing later on. Then the next category of the plants is bryophytes. Bryophytes are again uh, a very primitive form of the plants. Then pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. Okay, so I think I will not discuss them in much detail, except telling you that bryophytes are actually very small organisms. They don't have the proper vascular structure, and just like algae grow in the water, bryophytes are also very much dependent on the water. Without the presence of water, they cannot complete their life cycle. They need water around them, only then they can complete their life cycle. Just uh, growing on the soil will not help them. They must access the water for their completion of the life cycle. Okay, pteridophytes are the again primitive plants, and they have a very primitive vascular structure, and gymnosperms are the uh, sort of wood giving plants of the very ancient times, and they were very much prevalent in the Mesozoic era. That means in the period of the geological history when dinosaurs were very prevalent. Okay, so in those times when dinosaurs were very prevalent and they were dominating the earth and moving around, during that time period, the gymnosperms were the major plants which were present on the earth. However, now this is the era of the angiosperms and not the gymnosperms, and now the earth is dominated by the angiosperm group of the plants. And angiosperms are found in a diverse uh, variety of the habitats, right from the very cold environment to the very hot environment, starting from the uh, very cold peaks of the mountains or the Siberian region, uh, and then extending till the equator. And they can live even in the water, and they are called as hydrophytes if they live in the water, and they can live in the deserts, and they have huge kinds and diverse modes of the adaptation to live in these diverse environmental conditions. Okay, so all those we will be discussing later. One more important point from the point of view of the plants is the alternation of generation. Again, we will discuss the alternation of generation in the kingdom Plantae in the last portion. What is the alternation of generation? As you all know that sometimes the organisms have the single set of the chromosomes. That means they have one copy of the each chromosome. Sometimes they have two sets of the genome. They have two sets of the chromosomes, and they are called as diploid. That means they have one copy of the chromosomes from the mother and another copy of the chromosome from the father. For example, we humans are diploid. We have 46 chromosomes. 23 chromosomes come from the mother and 23 chromosomes come from the father. Okay, so we have two copies of the chromosome 1, two copies of the chromosome 2, two copies of the chromosome 3, etc., and so on, and we have two copies of the chromosome 22, till 22 we have 2 copies, and then we have 1 copy of chromosome X and 1 copy of chromosome in males, and in the females we have 2 copy of the chromosome X, right? So we humans are diploid. However, the gametes or the eggs and sperms, they are the haploid. Okay, we already have seen the fungi have the haploid body, and after the fusion of the gamete, the haploid structure may turn into the diploid structure, which is again undergoes the reduction division or or meiotic division, meiosis, and then the diploid zygote will again be converted into the haploid organism, right? So in this way, what happens, not only in the fungi but in other organisms also, that haploid and diploid phases uh, will be alternating with each other. Okay, so haploid phase will be followed by diploid phase, and diploid phase will be followed by haploid phase. Okay, so like we had seen that in fungi, the most of the time the organism remains in the haploid phase. Only when there is the sexual reproduction and formation of the zygote after the fertilization, then it goes to the diploid phase. Okay, so in the diploid phase, this lives for a very short time, and then immediately it gets converted to the haploid phase. So most of the time the fungi live in the haploid phase. So for how long the organism stays in the haploid phase and for how long the organism stays in the diploid phase, this period varies. Okay, so the period of the T1 and T2 are actually they vary considerably, and depending on this duration of the haploid phase and diploid phase, this concept of alternation of generation has come up. Okay, so more detail we will discuss in the later lecture. Now, after having discussed the brief and very essential features of the kingdom Plantae, we will stop over here to discuss the kingdom Plantae, and we will move to the fifth kingdom and the last kingdom of the Whittaker, which is kingdom Animalia. So what is the basic characteristic of the organisms which are included in the animal kingdom? As we have seen in the kingdom Plantae, that there are certain basic characters based on which you can assign the organism into kingdom Plantae. There should be some characteristics based on which you should be able to distinguish it immediately that whether it belongs to kingdom Animalia or not. So all the organisms of the kingdom Animalia are heterotrophic, they are eukaryotic, and they are multicellular organisms, and they don't have any cell wall. Okay, plants we had seen that they always have cell wall made up of the cellulose. Animals don't have any cell wall. Plants are autotrophic, but animals are heterotrophic always. However, plants and animals both are eukaryotic organisms. Plants, because of the autotrophic nature, they must have the chlorophyll molecule or some photosynthetic pigment. Usually they must have the chlorophyll molecule, okay, along with the accessory molecules also. However, animals will not have this molecule, and both kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia, they have the multicellular organization. That means the organisms belonging to these two kingdoms will all be multicellular. Okay, so now on the basis of these characters, you can easily define or distinguish an organism which belongs to the kingdom Animalia. Now, what are other characteristics of the animals? They are heterotrophic, and how do they obtain the food? They obtain food from outside, and they take the food inside their body. That means the food is taken in. Okay, so the mode of nutrition is heterotrophic, but this kind of the nutrition, when the food is taken inside the body, this is called as holozoic mode of nutrition. Okay, so holozoic mode is a kind of the heterotrophic mode only. So holozoic means the organism takes food inside, that means the food is ingested inside the body, and then after this food reaches inside the body, this food will be digested. So the food will be ingested, then it will be digested, and after digestion the food will be utilized for survival of the organism, and some food will be stored in the reserve form for later use. Okay, because for an plant usually uh, it will have the opportunity to do photosynthesis and synthesize its own food. However, animals ingest food sometimes, and sometimes they may not have the food available, so they must reserve at least some food for some duration, for some time period, so that they don't die of the hunger. So that means at least all the animals, at least they should store some food in the reserve form, and usually this food is stored in the form of glycogen or in the form of the fat. Okay, so this was about the mode of nutrition. Now uh, there is one very peculiar feature associated with kingdom Animalia, that they almost all are capable of moving. Okay, so they are capable to move. That means the property of locomotion is very crucial, and uh, almost all our animals have the property of locomotion. So here we have used the term movement. We have not used the term movement, rather we have used the term locomotion. So there is a difference between the movement and locomotion. I will appreciate if any of you can message me and tell me what is difference between movement and locomotion. Okay, so can any of you tell me what is difference between movement and locomotion? And don't forget to mention your name when you are telling me the answer. Okay, so that I know which person has told me that. So there is one peculiar feature with the higher forms of the animals, that they have very elaborate sensory and neuromotor mechanism. Okay, which is a characteristic feature of the kingdom animals, and it is a very distinguishing feature, and it is not present in the other organisms. So the capability to sense the environment, to sense the other things, and then act accordingly based on the neural mechanism. So the sensory and neuromotor mechanisms are very elaborate in the higher forms of the animals. Okay, as far as mode of reproduction is considered, most of the animals undergo sexual method of the reproduction, and asexual mode of reproduction is very rare and very uncommon in the kingdom Animalia, unlike the plants. In plants, uh, mostly sexual reproduction is there. However, asexual reproduction is also fairly common, but in animals asexual reproduction is very rarely present. Most of the animals always reproduce by the sexual mode of reproduction. And there is another peculiar feature, because of the lack of the cell wall in the body and the multicellular organization. This all the animals, they have to have a definite shape and size of the body in when they are adult, but all the adults will develop from the zygote. That means the adult has to be made from the zygote. So during this process, what happens, that this zygote, which is single celled, has to divide and give rise to numerous cells, and these hundreds or thousands or millions and billions of cells have to make the body of the organisms. So this process of the growth and differentiation has to be very well controlled. So the initial process is actually called as embryological development. So there is a very clear, very distinguished embryological development for most of the animals. And then after the embryological development, after the embryo has been formed, there is a very definite growth pattern, so that that embryo, which is a very miniature organism, can grow and develop into a mature adult form. Okay, so embryological development and then a very definite growth pattern is a very characteristic feature of the animals. And this is how, after these two developments of the embryological development and the growth, this zygote or the embryo uh, will develop and will become an adult. This adult will again reproduce, and then again it will go under aging. It will age, it will become old, and it will die. However, after reproduction, whatever organisms have been produced, usually by the sexual mode of reproduction, they will continue the species. The organism will die, but the species will continue. Okay. So I think now you all have understood the very basics of the kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia here in this lecture. Okay. If you have any doubt, just ask me, and we will stop over here now. We will discuss the remaining portion of this chapter, which is virus, viroids, and lichens, in the next lecture. Okay. So stay safe, take care of yourself, and keep learning, keep studying, make best use of this time which is available to you, and be ready for your competitive examinations which are ahead, and which will help you to fulfill your goal to become whatever you want, either doctor or uh, scientist or whatever you want to become. Okay, you have to study hard, you have to focus, only then you can achieve your goal. So keep learning, and take care of yourself, and feel free to ask me if you have any questions. Okay, bye bye.